Before we kick things off, I've got 2 quick things for you. First, do you want to push real innovation and help spark the uncomfortable but necessary conversations in the concrete industry? Support this show. When you donate, we list you as a producer of the episode because you're literally making these conversations happen. Go to concretelogicpodcast.com/donate and back the show today. Second, for a limited time, you can get free access to the Concrete Logic Academy. Take your first class on us, earn a PDH credit, and stick around for the networking and resources you won't find anywhere else in the industry. Claim your free trial now at concretelogicpodcast.com/academy. All right, let's get into today's episode.
What's the most used man-made material on Earth? I'll give you the answer. Concrete. This is the Concrete Logic Podcast. Have you ever stopped to think about the sidewalks, driveways, bridges, or the buildings around you? They're all made from concrete. So why don't we discuss it more? In each episode of Concrete Logic, we'll explore a unique concrete-related topic with the help of industry professionals shaping the trade's future. We'll talk with suppliers, contractors, architects, engineers, specialists, and even proponents of competing materials. We'll get their views on concrete and their visions for its future. So get ready to mix things up with Concrete Logic, where we turn the spotlight on the material that's everywhere but often overlooked. This is the Concrete Logic Podcast. And now, here's your host, Seth Tandit.
And welcome to another episode of the Concrete Logic Podcast. And today I have our favorite guest, Dr. Jon Belkowitz. And he's in his new location.
I am. And it's 71 to 77 degrees here with 50% plus or minus 4% relative humidity. Wonderful dew point. We've got loss of moisture between 8 and 13 milliliters in a 24-hour period. We're ready for CCRL.
None of that made sense to me except for it was in the 70s. That's what I heard.
It's beautiful in here.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so it's been a bit since you've been on. We tried to get you on with Rich, and we had some technical difficulties, but I'm glad we got it figured out. But what we're gonna do today is continue-ish that topic at hand where we were discussing Type 1L. Rich's episode, if you didn't catch it, I believe it was 127. I think it was something like that. You'll find it. Just look it up. When we were talking about why some folks were having problems with Type 1L cement and why some folks were having problems and why others were not. And we're going to discuss that today with Dr. Jon. Did you want to start with the Type 1L is here to stay, or do you want to start somewhere else?
Yeah. I think, Rich says, and he has set it off some, that Type 1L is here to stay. Did he say that during the last podcast?
Not the last one. I think it was several ago. And then Tyler, to be fair, I think Tyler Lay's been on the podcast and said the same thing. So there's been a couple individuals on here. Yeah. And I think and I just want to recognize that you've been on this podcast and say, that is not the case.
I just want to amend it. I don't want to be negative and say that's not the case. I like words, especially since we were just talking about writing in script or cursive.
Yeah.
But the English language is very important to me. And I think saying that Type 1L is here to stay almost sounds like a threat or a promise. It has a negative connotation to it. And if you just add 2 or 3 more words at the end, all of a sudden it has this positive, swing to it. So I just want to amend it to not Type 1L is here to stay. Type 1L is here unless you're willing to pay a little more money. And then you could use whatever the fuck you want. Excuse my language.
You're good.
But that's the truth.
Yeah.
Because Esco, Sylvie, Ozinga. I mean, there are plenty of companies that have been bringing cement into the U.S. for the better part of 10, 15 years now. To insinuate that it's either you use type 1L or else, I don't think that's necessary, because type 1L is still being sold. Despite the manifold of issues that folks are having with it, we're still, managing the problems, as one ready mix provider said to me. Although some, I would say, unlike Rich, are not managing, or like Rich, are not managing the problem, but actually focusing on dealing with the problem, how to turn the problem into a solution. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Is that fair to do?
Yeah.
I think one of the things that you've been seeing on your podcast is that there's a lot of defense of the type 1L, or a lot of offense. It's either you love it or you hate it. Like, even I haven't listened to Rich's yet because I didn't want it to have an impact on mine, but I've had people tell me that they've flippin' loved it, and as soon as we're done here, I'm going to go listen to it. But I know you've had a few people on here who are just bashing and trashing it, and then there are people from certain organizations that are just like, oh, it's just like normal cement. And type 1L is not the enemy. And the reason why I say that is because and a lot of the folks we have today in the industry are too young to remember the great cement shortage between, 96 and 98, where we weren't producing enough to meet the demand here in the U.S., and we started bringing in cements from overseas. Now, these cements had a higher blane fineness, they had a higher alkalinity, and because of that, instead of waiting 28 days to get 28-day strengths, we were achieving those in 7 days, 3 days, sometimes even 24 hours. And I don't know if anybody remembers him. There was a gentleman named Richard Burroughs who was trying to create a Type 6 cement, which was reminiscent of the Hoover Dam days, where it took 28 days to get 28-day strength. And up until he passed away, and he was, 102 years old when he was still working on it, he was the champion. It was moving through. But the funny thing is, by the early 2000s, we were starting, or even the late 90s, 2000, we were starting to produce enough cement here in the U.S., and we went back to our traditional Hoover Dam cements. And the industry, the contractors were like, we don't want this. We want those Asian-based cements that give us our strength. We can backfill in 24 hours or 7 days. You know how many job sites I can move to with that?
Right.
Now, we also didn't realize that because of the alkalinity, it was going to cause issues with ASR and some other stuff, but we found that out over time. It's just that the industry has been through this before, and we have bounced back in different ways. Now, because of logistics and because of the World Wide Web, we have made the world much smaller. And now getting cement from Vietnam, Denmark, Greece, China, India is not a bad thing. Look at this. Check this out. We did this study on the cement market in India, and this was back in 2017. Rich did this project and gave a presentation on the great cement shortage of 2017 in Texas. That's something you should have him present on the Concrete Logic podcast.
Yeah.
In that presentation he gave in 2010, 2012 timeframe, he talked about how we were going to eclipse the amount of cement that we needed, and we'd have to start bringing in from overseas. And he was 100% correct. Now, I'll shut up here in a second. Check this out. These are all, hold on, those are limestone deposits, coal deposits. These are all the new areas for cement production in India.
Yeah.
Like, there's enough cement to go around. So again, going back to the phrase, type 1 here, type 1L is here unless you're willing to spend more money.
Yeah. Well, especially now there's tariffs.
There's tariffs, but the reality that people are losing concrete, and if this upsets the cement associations and the folks who are selling the type 1L, it's their own effing fault. You could be mad at me if you want to. I have 4 kids. They're constantly mad at me. But the rhetoric of, it's a 1-to-1. And Rich gets so pissed at me when I say that. Oh, you got to stop saying that, John. I'm like, it's not me saying it. It's the ready mix providers who won't stop internalizing it and believing it.
Yeah.
Listen, when I first got in the industry, we started using polycarboxylates, high-range water reducers. We found out very, very quickly the type of cement, both physical and chemical characteristics, kind of had an impact on the way the polycarboxylate cone polymer worked. And here, I put together this presentation. Can I show this slide?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Try it.
As long as we're staying on track. I don't want you to get off track. Stick with the type, what we're doing with type 1L.
So I won't do it. But what we found, and when I say we, it's a larger part of the industry, not only did the polycarboxylate not work as well, if we were using Advil 100 in Boston, we could get a 28-inch spread with 4 ounces per hundredweight. We went over to Colorado, we needed 8 ounces per hundredweight to get the same spread. When we went over to Albuquerque, you could use 16 ounces per hundredweight, and instead of getting a spread, you got a 2-inch slump. So what we found in one of the papers that I get into is there was a wonderful paper written by Jean Michel Lay. It was 3 pages. French guy, most of it was photos or charts and graphs. And it explained how the sulfate and alkalinity content of the cement changed the characteristics of the poly. Now, when you look at most of the concretes being made right now, they're using polycarboxylates that were made in 2006, 2008, 2017, and names don't matter. But as it turns out, in the admixture community, in the manufacturing, we don't make custom polys like you used to. Like there was this guy out of Dallas, Texas, owned a company called ProMix, and his claim to fame was, send me your cement and cementitious, and I can get you a polycarboxylate high-range water reducer that is specific to your cement chemistry, cementitious chemistry, in a 10,000-gallon tanker in 2 weeks or less.
Right.
Going back to what folks had said, there are folks who are having issues and there are folks that are not having issues. My argument is the folks that are not having issues, they spent the time and resources into figuring out how to use the Type 1L cement, while others treated it like a Type 1-2 and just managed the problems instead of turning the problems into solutions.
Right. Yeah. I agree with that. I mean, going back to your 1-to-1 thing, I'm not saying I understand why they did this, but so essentially the Type 1L cement, the production of Type 1 cement is cheaper for them to manufacture. So if it's not a Type 1-to-1 or a 1-to-1 replacement, are you still there?
Yeah, I had to blow my nose. I didn't want to do it on camera.
I gotcha.
Sorry.
If it's not a 1-to-1 replacement, that screws up their whole business model, because now they're not saving the money they had on the Type 1 cement versus the Type 1-2. You got to add more cement to do the same thing as Type 1-2 to make it happen, and then that blows up the whole idea of, it's cheaper to produce Type 1L.
I think you're making it more difficult than it needs to be.
No, I'm not making it difficult. That's just that's my
Sure.
thought on why they came out and said it's a 1-to-1, because that's what they initially did all their numbers on.
So this is the PSA. It's not a 1-to-1.
No, and I think
if
everyone
you're
knows that. I mean, it's 2025
Do
now.
they?
I think so.
I
At
don't
least-
think so.
No?
No. I just had a phone call with a number of ready mix providers, and it was like beating my head into the wall. And they're still using admixtures from 8 years ago. Remember, see, we have a very short freaking selective memory in the concrete construction industry.
Yeah.
We went through this. We went through this when we told our ready mix providers that water was the enemy. And then we dropped, what was it, 2009, we dropped our water cementitious ratio. I remember there was a ready mix provider in Marietta, Georgia that had a high early strength mix. It was at a 0.28 water cement ratio.
Yeah.
And it was all for reducing shrinkage, but it got into our freaking thick heads that water is the enemy and we should make chemcrete, not concrete. It takes a very long time for our industry. It's not a light switch. It's like turning the Titanic, right? And you say it because, I mean, have some of your ready mix providers on here, which, you make sure they put a head cover on and, just blurry the camera. But no, and this is just, and I'm saying it so passionately because I've been on a phone call with them and I got yelled at for asking somebody, what the F are you talking about? You can't, we'll just make the air 4% higher at the plant and we'll let it die off all in the field and then just put air packs in it. The fuck are you talking about, dude?
Yeah.
Like, that's just like, it's 2005. 25. No, it isn't. It is not 2025. You're measuring it incorrectly. We are 7 to 8 years away from the last major exodus. We are 3 to 5 years away from the next major exodus. And this is an exodus of the continuity in our industry. Your bosses are retiring in 5 years or less. Rich, how many more years do you think Rich, his mentor, just retired? How many more years does Rich have? And remember, Rich makes 1.7 million cubic yards of concrete a year. When he goes, and this is something that people in the ready mix industry do, they don't look back. Brian Green from the Army Corps is retiring in December. Chuck Weiss retired, 6 months ago? Dr. David Pittman retired 2 or 3 months ago. It's starting at the origin. We're back at 0, if not, we're at 0.8. We're somewhere on the x-axis of time, but we haven't gone up in knowledge. And I say this because, and somebody great to have on the phone or on the Concrete Project Logic podcast next is either Michael Fauble from Landmark or Jason Wimberly from Lithco. Okay. Two brilliant people who are both admixture salesmen or admixture representatives who are still in the industry, maybe 5-10 years left before retirement, and they can tell you what we used to do so you can hear it besides somebody from me. 2007, 2008, let's just say it was 2005 to 2008, when polycarboxylates really got their grasp in the industry beyond SCCs. What we used to do is every time the cement and fly ash changed, we would send baggies or a 55-gallon drum over to our admixture suppliers. Our admixture suppliers would do some tests, compatibility here and there, and they would send us 3 different products in 5-gallon drums or in totes. And we would test it. They would also send somebody. Gene Peroni would come in from Wisconsin. I would tell him, hey, Gene, I'm having a problem with this admixture. He would start driving on Friday night, and he would get there sometime late Saturday evening. He would stay at our apartment. So that's what nowadays, and again, I just got off the phone with a ready mix provider. I asked them, have you done any compatibility studies? No. And it was just such a matter of fact fucking no. I don't know if they were saying it because they were mad at me or because they didn't want me to be part of the conversation. I was like, I mean, it doesn't take much. Just take your cementitious, put it in a bag and send it over. And well, why don't you do that? Why don't you call our rep and talk to them for us? What are you talking about? That's your freaking job. That's one of the 3 things you need to do on your freaking rip sheet. I just think that there is a certain innocence and a certain naivety. Is that French? That folks have French. When it comes, whether it was French or not, a German. There are some ready mix providers who are being, what's the word that I used? Complacent.
Yeah.
Complacency.
It's just unbelievable to me that we're at this point. I mean, just ignoring what's going on, or. I don't understand. I
upset some people on a phone call, and then instead of saying things, I started asking things. And one thing I asked was, okay, we've got a lot of cracks here. Aren't you concerned about those cracks? And the person on the call who acted as the concrete expert for the ready mix provider said, sometimes with concrete cracks, we don't have to worry about them because they just go away. And you know what? I didn't say it verbatim, so the person hearing this who said it, if you want to correct me, please feel free to come on this podcast and explain yourself, because I would love to hear the explanation and throw me under the bus. I don't mind. Doesn't hurt my feelings. But what the F, man? Are you just ignorant of the damage you're causing to the taxpayer? Oh, I don't want to even say. And that's why we live in a wonderful capitalistic world where either people are going to adapt, God bless them, type 1L isn't the enemy, you just got to learn to use it. Or if they can't use that, they either go out of business and they get consumed by another company, or they buy type 1 too from across the big blue pond. Yeah.
Well, let's go back to your example that you just got the call of. Do you did they set up the project right? Like the folks that are, the owners, do they give the ready mix supplier that flexibility to,
I feel like you were just talking to Rich or something like that.
I'm just trying to, see the other side.
You're a good student. You write a lot of notes. That is exactly what Rich says. Do you allow the ready mix providers to do their job?
Yeah.
Give themselves the rope to hang themselves with, or the keys to their own destiny?
That's right.
And yes, and they're being so flipping flexible. But let's take away from this ready mix provider before I start saying names and other things. You're still hearing complaints, Seth, and so am I.
Yeah.
It's not like somebody said, oh, we could take our masks off today. Right? We're good now, right? You remember that? But all of a sudden we can take off I was on a flight and the flight attendant was like, really? Okay. And she got on, was like, listen, I guess COVID's not a thing anymore. You can just take off your masks. Nobody asked that question. Like, what?
No.
This is a light switch? Today's the day?
Yeah.
So we haven't had that day.
Wait. While we're done, we can wear our shoes on the airplane or going through security.
You know what,
guys.
brother? You go on an airplane. Mallory was just stuck on a plane with her 6-year-old for 9 hours.
Yeah.
Uncle Eric was stuck on a plane at DIA on the tarmac for 8 hours.
Jeez.
I'm going to drive. I'm just
Okay. All right. Sorry. Go back of hands. You have seen how the specs were set up, so there's no excuse for this ready mix supplier to say, hey, I don't.
No, I didn't
Okay.
say that. I
Okay.
said that I diverted myself from that question.
Okay.
And I
So
said,
you're not answering the question by.
hey, I'm a good student of riches too, man.
Okay.
The owner, it was a very good way of saying it, has been very flexible with the ready mix provider on how they deal with the problem. The problem is that the ready mix provider doesn't see the problem as a problem. They see it as something that they just have to manage on the job site. Because they, in the specs, only have to meet strength.
Well, you answered it. It was set up wrong.
It was set up wrong. You're right. You're not wrong. But you know what? If your concrete is failing 6 months or less after you put it down.
Well, yeah. Like somebody like you or me would get it, you figure it out and fix the problem. But there's a lot of people out there just, hey, this is what the spec said. I'm doing what the spec says.
And that is complacency.
It is.
So allow me to say it again. Complacency is at the foundation of concrete inconsistencies and failures.
Yeah. Well, I
Type
know you're
1
going to listen. You're going to listen to the Rich episode here shortly. But I think what we got, well, at least what I got out of the conversation with Rich is there's not a same fix for every situation.
No.
Right? Okay. So every situation is different. So there's projects where, like we're talking about, the specifications weren't set up right for the new change. Or then we move another situation. Maybe the ready mix guy is screwing up, or maybe the contractor's screwing up because his methods haven't adjusted for the new change. So there's all these different things that we need to, kind of, check. And hopefully we catch it before the job starts. But unfortunately, it sounds like we're still having problems.
Production never stops.
Yeah.
And what you don't see with most ready mix providers is they don't have a line item for research. So while it seems like I'm throwing ready mix providers under the bus, it's that movie, Saving Sarah Marshall. There was no bad guys or villains in the movie. They were all people just trying to do their day-to-day, right?
Yeah.
Like when ready mix providers don't have the time and resources to do research, it's not because they're jerks. It's just because they're constantly making concrete and there's no stopping in the schedule from 4 a.m. to 6 or 8 p.m. Like they don't have a laboratory. Uncle Eric owned 2 ready mix plants with 36 trucks. It took him, 1999 till 2010 to actually build a laboratory. And at that, it was just doing fresh and hardened properties and making cylinders.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything major. And then it built from there. QC, QA shack, compression machine. But most folks don't have that ability and agility in the ready mix. Now, when it comes to, the methods and practices, part of the one-to-one was not just the ready mix production, it was how we specified it and how we placed it and finished it.
Right.
And I remember being at Utah. I gave a talk on Eddystone at the Ready Mix Concrete Association. Wrong place. I realize that now. They don't care about deteriorated and, broken concrete. They only care about new concrete. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
but there were 3 cement suppliers there, or 3 folks from the same cement company. And I was like, so you guys are selling this as a 1-to-1, huh? And they were tall. That's one thing I've learned about cement suppliers. The salesmen, they're all freaking tall. David Gray, tall as hell. You know, Kevin Kane, tall as hell. Dave Fergursky, tall as hell. So I'm looking up at him like, so you're doing the 1-to-1 thing, huh? And he goes, oh yeah, it's a 1-to-1. I'm like, curing it, casting it, making it, baking it, shaking it? He goes, oh yeah. 1-to-1, there's no difference. Admixtures all the same. And he wasn't even looking at me. He was a tall person looking over the horizon, right? Just mean, snarky too. So I think that rhetoric, you know, it's a 1-to-1, or, well, we use the same, the clinker is the same. Ugh. This is the pop quiz for you, hotshot. What do we put in concrete, clinker or cement?
Cement.
When you hear this rhetoric from the cement industry, and some of them are still selling it that way, and guys, you don't have to. Even when you don't talk to the concrete producers, they're gonna buy your product because it's less expensive or it's more convenient than getting it from overseas.
Yeah.
But that rhetoric, I mean, it is at the core of why none of these 3 entities, the engineers, the producers, and the contractors, are changing up their abilities, their methodologies, their practices, their art as quickly as we would expect them to. Like, hey, don't you see a problem? And as Rich says, show me a time when you didn't have a problem with concrete. Okay, you don't have to agree with him that quickly. You can be like, well, I don't know.
It's hard to argue with them sometimes.
I know, right? It's just that when you're seeing concrete fail 19 to 29 years before its life cycle, or shorten it, 9 to 19 years. And there's a certain systemic nature to it. That's something else Rich likes to talk about. Is this isolated event, or is there a certain systemic nature to it? And that's what we're seeing, is that, okay, whether it's the methodologies of making and trucking, because that has not changed either, or placing it and curing it, because that really hasn't changed, or the admixtures, which, hey, I love the admixtures that we made in the 2000s and the 2010s just as much as the next people. I have them lined up in my admixture shelf. Doesn't mean they're going to work for this type of cement. And that's why I think you should have Michael Fabel on. He does a wonderful way of talking about that. I mean, has just rock, paper, scissors, just really easy.
Right.
I want to go into the chemistry and how the morphology changes, and, you know, the polycarboxylates start acting like a surfactant and they coalesce air and then the air bubble pops out, but you don't want to hear that.
The dancing was nice.
Oh, the octopus that coalesces air and then the air bubble?
There you go.
You
That's
see
good.
it. That was good. Well, it's not just good. It's part of the reason why our surfaces are going to SHIT.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why we have more of a vascular nature in concrete that is ultimately going to cause early aged concrete edifices.
Yeah.
That was a good fucking word, right?
Well, yeah. I think what I'm getting at it today, and some, you know, I like to beat on type 1L cement, but the admixtures, the other things that we put in concrete, and we kind of touched on this. I asked Rich this about, you know, the other things that we put in concrete to make concrete, you know, the aggregate, the sand, the water, the compatibility of those things with the new cement as well. So it's like I really haven't put a lot of thought in the admixtures, and, you know, those folks need to make adjustments as well.
You know, I remember years ago we've got, 4 major admixture companies here in the US, and there was one admixture company who went away from making what I call boutique polys that are specific to your cement. And instead of that, they made 3 types, let's just say 3 types of polycarboxylates, and they blended them to your needs.
Right.
So they went from, what's the word? Reacting? No, that's not what the word. Not generating, but developing their own polys to, we've got a bunch on the shelf, and then we're just going to mix and match until we get you what you need. Most of the admixture companies have gone to that, where we're going to make a bunch of these 3 or 4 or 5 different types of polys. We're going to blend them up with salts and sugars and defoamers, and then we're going to sell that. But we're not going to make boutique polys anymore because there's no money in that.
Yeah. No. But if we're using the stuff that was compatible with cement back in 2007 and 8 is not
Right.
compatible with the cement is what I'm getting out of our discussion today.
Yeah, I don't know why people have forgotten that.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like a lesson that was lost back in 2017, 2018. And for you ready mix providers, it's not hard for you, no pun intended. It's not hard for you to do a compatibility study. Take your admixture providers out for lunch. Instead of them taking you out for lunch, switch it up on them and say, hey, I need your help. It looks like I got a compatibility issue here. And then they take your cement, whether it's in a baggie or in a drum, they do the work and they come back. And then you run trials with them out at your plant. It's called dialing in the mix, and run your worst mix. They should be able to turn it from worst to the best and then go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's probably some companies that do all admixture companies. They have the capability of doing that.
All of them do. And all of them have, I would love to rattle off names, but then it sounds like I'm supporting people.
Yeah.
Or supporting companies. But every single one of them, there are wonderful people working at all of these companies. Red, yellow, green, blue, whoever you're using, that seems like there was some kind of communication breakdown. Like the folks that I was talking to the other day, when I had made mention of that, they had said, well, why don't you take the results you have and go talk to them for us? What do you, like, I know I've already said that, but again, it's just, I wouldn't, like, I used to make concrete for a living. You know, I worked as a ready mix supplier on 2 separate occasions for a very long time. I was very personal friends with my admixture suppliers. Still am. I still work with Gene Peroni. I still get to talk to Kurt Coppage, every once in a blue moon. It's wild that people aren't using the resources, and I think it's because they're not admitting they have a problem. Like, until you admit you have a problem, and I guess if you tell yourself a lie over and over and over again, you eventually end up believing that lie. But the resources are available once they admit they have a problem. And BT dubs, as the kids say, when you have to replace your concrete 4 times...
Do you want me to finish that? You might have a problem.
You might have a problem.
Yeah. All right.
And switching up admixtures, 2 over here and 3 ounces per 100, it seems like we've lost some of the intelligence and some of the strategy. And I'm telling you, it's going to get worse before it gets better. It's like we are the 3rd generation of a family-owned business. And just screwing it up. You ever hear that?
Yeah.
First generation starts it, second generation grows it, 3rd generation destroys it.
Third destroys it. Yeah.
Which Dan McCoy is 3rd generation, and he is kicking butt. You need to bring him back on the podcast.
He's a hard man I might have to go up there and just do it up there. He's a hard guy to get.
Wow. So I asked you to come hang out, but you're going to go hang out with Dan McCoy? No, that's cool. Doesn't hurt my feelings or anything. No.
I went and met with you before you moved.
Well, now I moved, so now you got to come over here. You got to go like this. Whoa, this place looks great, John. Like, I need that affirmation.
I got you. Well, we can talk about.
Dan is great to talk to because he is still on the type 1L is the enemy. Maybe not the enemy, but is what is causing the problems.
Right.
And I don't disagree with him because I think naturally he's going to figure out that he's working with ready mix providers that are kicking ass. And those folk, they work over the weekends to figure out their problems and how to come up with solutions. And like you, they were in the Army. You weren't in the Army, were you?
No. I get that a lot, but no.
It's the haircut.
Yeah. All right. Let's cut it today. So if I was to take one thing out of today's episode, I mean, there's a lot to take out of it, but let's start looking at our admixtures. Yeah.
Admixture incompatibility is the term, and talk to your suppliers. They're so easy to work with.
And don't hesitate if you're having problems to reach out to me so I can get you in contact with the right folks that can help you out.
Yeah, I'm going to give you some names afterwards of some really good people to work with for some of the admixture companies.
Yeah.
And just brilliant people.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, thank you, and congratulations on the move. It's looking good.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And folks, until next time, let's keep it concrete.